Hey everyone! Today we're going to talk about something almost every FPS player has experienced, but very few have actually stopped to think about. Why is it that your aim is absolutely cracked in practice, but the moment you load into a real match, it's like you're a completely different player? In deathmatch, your spray control is laser tight, your counter strafing is crisp, your crosshair placement is on point, head level, every angle. Then you queue ranked. Someone swings on you. Your crosshair is dead on their head, and you whiff. And then the self-doubt spiral begins. Is my sensitivity wrong? Are my hands cold? Did I overtrain and now my muscles are fatigued? So, you start tweaking your sense. 1.8 to 1.6. 1.6 to 2. It feels good for a few games. Then 2 days later, you're right back where you started. Over and over. Like you're stuck in a loop you can't escape. Here's the thing. It's probably not your sensitivity. It's your hands. Let's start from the top. First, the way you hold your mouse. There are roughly 3 grip styles. Palm grip. Your entire hand rests on the mouse, fingers extended naturally forward. This is the most stable grip because it maximizes contact surface area between your hand and the mouse. The trade-off? Your fingers lose range of motion. When you need to make a micro adjustment, your fingers can't do the work, so your wrist or arm has to take over. The moment your wrist engages, the torque increases, and if your sensitivity is even slightly high, your crosshair drifts. Claw grip. The back of your palm touches the mouse, but your fingers are arched like a claw. Very high finger dexterity. Micro adjustments are precise. The problem? It's fatiguing. Your fingers are constantly under tension. Once the muscles tire out, your pinky and ring fingers start generating tiny, involuntary tremors, and the sensor picks up every single one. Fingertip grip. Just your fingertips touching the mouse. Arm hovering. Maximum agility. Minimum stability. Any microspasm in any finger, the sensor reads it immediately. Notice the pattern here? No matter which grip you use, your fingers, wrist, and arm are continuously applying tiny forces to the mouse, forces you're not even consciously aware of. They're just your muscles doing what muscles do to maintain grip posture. But the sensor can't tell the difference. The sensor doesn't know the difference between I'm flicking to a target and my hand is micro-tremoring from fatigue. It just reads the input. All of it. All right, grips covered. Now let's look at the keyboard side. Most of you rest your left hand on WASD. That's standard, no issues there. But if you use custom keybinds, crouch on a mouse side button, jump on the scroll wheel, ADS on right click, have you ever paid attention to what happens in your right hand the exact moment you press one of those keys? Your right hand is holding the mouse, stable. Then suddenly, one finger has to exert force to press a button. That single finger contracting, that's enough to throw off the entire muscle balance of your hand. Your thumb pulls inward. Your middle finger presses down and to the right. Your ring finger tenses in sympathy. A cascade of tiny forces all hit the mouse at the same time. The sensor reads all of it. You think your spray control slipped. What actually happened was your middle finger fighting your index finger. And that's just a single key press. What about compound actions? Counter strafing while shooting. Shooting while crouching. Both hands executing multiple actions simultaneously. Left pinky pressing control for the strafe stop. Right index firing. Right middle pressing right click to crouch. 4 fingers firing force in 4 different directions. Your brain is frantically coordinating these signals, but your hand only has so many muscle groups it can't keep up. The result? You were on target. But the exact frame you click, your crosshair dips a fraction, or pulls slightly left. You can't see it yourself, because it all happens too fast. From click to bullet, maybe a few dozen milliseconds. But if you record your gameplay and go frame by frame, you'll notice something. The first bullet on every counter-strafe engage lands low. That's not bad aim. That's your hand generating force at exactly the wrong moment. Now let's go deeper. Every time you play, your brain is quietly learning your movement patterns. You tend to pull the mouse slightly downward just before clicking. Your brain logs that. Your ring finger involuntarily tenses during a strafe stop? Logged. Your wrist has a fixed internal rotation angle on every flick? Logged. 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 This is muscle memory. Muscle memory is, fundamentally, a good thing. It's the crystallized output of thousands of hours of experience. The problem is, the brain doesn't distinguish between correct memory and incorrect memory. It just mechanically repeats whatever movement you've performed the most. If you've got a flawed force habit and you've repeated it thousands of times, your brain no longer recognizes it as a flaw. It treats it as the standard operating procedure. This is why changing sensitivity doesn't fix anything for long. Sensitivity only changes the ratio between physical displacement and in-game cursor movement. It does nothing to address the flawed force patterns in your hand. When you switch to a new sense, your brain temporarily loses its calibration, which disrupts those old motor patterns. So, yeah, it feels good for a bit, but your brain adapts fast. It relearns. And soon enough, all those bad patterns remap themselves onto the new sensitivity. That's why your aim feels good one day and terrible the next. It's not the sense, it's your muscle memory, actively fighting against your sensitivity. All right, that was a lot of theory. How do you check if any of this applies to you? 3 methods. No tools required. 1. The idle drift test. Load into any aim training map. Don't shoot anything. Just place your hands on your mouse and keyboard normally, completely relaxed. Stare at your crosshair. Watch to see if it slowly drifts on its own. If it does, note which direction. Everyone's drift direction is different. It directly correlates with your grip style and which fingers are unconsciously applying tension. 2. The strafe stop recording. Record a session of ranked or deathmatch. Find a few clips where you counter-strafe into a shot. Go frame by frame. Look at the exact moment the shot fires. Is there a tiny, sudden crosshair jump? You don't need to scroll far, just the frame of the shot and the frame before it. If it's consistent down, left, right, whatever your keybind force balance is the culprit. 3. The keybind swap test. Change your most used custom bind. Crouch from right click back to left control. Jump from scroll wheel back to spacebar. Play for an hour. Pay attention to your hit percentage and your strafe stop feel. If there's a clear improvement, your old bind was interfering at a level you couldn't consciously perceive. These 3 self-diagnostics, you can do them at home, right now. Nothing to buy, nothing to install. Now, if you run these tests and you want to go even more precise, some things the naked eye genuinely cannot catch. You might feel like your crosshair didn't move, but the data says it shifted by 0.3 degrees. You cannot perceive 0.3 degrees. But across a 32-round magazine, if every round lands 0.3 degrees off, that drift really adds up by the end. This is where I want to mention AimForge. At its core, it's an FPS training platform with integrated AI analysis. You train on it, and it records data on every single shot you fire. Not just hit or miss your aim trajectory, your crosshair deviation at the moment of firing, your pre- and post-strafe crosshair stability, your speed fluctuations during tracking, all of it. Then the AI works backwards from that data to reverse engineer what's happening with your mechanics, your likely grip type, your dominant force patterns. Whether your keybind combinations are generating conflict torque, whether your inconsistency comes from sensitivity being too high or micro-correction ability being underdeveloped. What you get is a diagnostic report. It tells you what your root problems are, and then gives you targeted training routines to fix them. Of course, you don't have to use the AI. The 3 self-diagnostic methods I just walked through do those, figure out roughly where your issues are, and go train accordingly. That's the free route, outside of any paid options. It works just as well. Let me wrap this up. When it comes to aim training, grinding harder does not automatically make you better. If you're training in the wrong direction, the more you grind, the deeper you engrave those bad motor patterns. Take a look at your hands sometime. Your left hand, your right hand. Watch what they're actually doing on the keyboard and mouse. You've probably been telling yourself your aim just isn't good enough. The real answer might be much simpler than that. Your pinky was just pressing when it shouldn't have been. Thanks for watching. See you next time.